Behind every sparkling gemstone locked away in the royal vault, there's usually a hidden story. We're talking power, rebellion, diplomatic maneuvering, the whole shebang. Today, we're going to explore the incredible hidden history locked inside some of the most famous stones in the world. Specifically, we're diving into Princess Diana's legendary 15-piece jewel collection to unpack the deep history, the heavy diplomatic weight, and honestly, the quiet personal rebellion hidden within these absolutely incredible artifacts. Let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with a question. How exactly did a $413,000 commercial catalog ring make royal history? Think about Diana's famous 12-carat deep Ceylon blue sapphire engagement ring. Normally, right, royal brides get custom-made one-of-a-kind rings, but Diana, she did something radically different. In 1981, she literally just chose this ring from a commercial catalog presented by Garrett. No bespoke commission at all. It was technically available to anyone who could afford it, which was considered highly unconventional for a future Princess of Wales. Today, thanks to that exceptionally rare Ceylon sapphire, it's valued at roughly $413,000, and it's a permanent piece of royal history now worn by Catherine, Princess of Wales. Instead of just a simple countdown, we're going to group these jewels into 5 main themes today. 1. The power of provenance. 2. Breaking royal tradition. 3. The diplomatic gifts. 4. Historic royal heirlooms. And 5. The ultimate statements. First up, the power of provenance, or family history versus financial worth. How exactly does shared family history and personal legacy completely multiply a gem's financial value? Well, take the Prince of Wales' feathers pendant, for example. It's valued at over $1 million. And it features this ancient 3-feather emblem rendered in these absolutely exceptional diamonds and emeralds. But the real kicker, the royal symbolism and the fact that Diana famously wore it publicly as the Princess of Wales, adds a historic provenance that standard gemstone valuations simply can't account for. It's not just rocks and metal, it's history. Now, $400,000. That is a pretty wild number to consider for this next piece. It's the surprisingly modest valuation of the incredibly iconic Spencer Tiara, crafted by Gerard back in the 1930s. I mean, for a tiara with this level of global fame, you'd probably expect a multi-million-dollar price tag, right? But there's a really fascinating reason why it sits exactly where it does. And that reason is all about ownership. It's a private family piece, not crown property. Its material value comes from that lovely 1930s Gerard craftsmanship, but its historical value? Immeasurable. It was worn by 3 Spencer sisters at their respective weddings, including, of course, Diana's in 1981. There's this quiet irony here that Diana made this piece globally iconic despite never actually owning it. It stayed with the Spencers the whole time, and today it's actually set to pass down to Princess Charlotte. Moving on to theme 2, breaking royal tradition and rewriting the rules of royal jewels. We are going to see how Diana literally transformed fine jewelry from a stiff, formal obligation into this incredibly adventurous creative tool. A perfect example of keeping tradition alive while slightly bending the rules of the royal vault is the Collingwood pearl earrings. Valued at $500,000, these pearl drop earrings were a 1981 wedding gift. But what makes them really stand out is their continuity. Rather than being locked away in some dark vault gathering dust, they've been worn to real events by 2 princesses, Diana and now Catherine. They stayed in active circulation, which breathes real life into the royal collection. Then you have the Attallah Cross. This was an oversized amethyst and diamond piece from the 1920s. Diana simply borrowed it in the 1980s and wore it completely unconventionally, hanging very low on a super long chain. That bold association created the entire foundation for its fame, so much so that when Kim Kardashian bought it at auction in 2023 for nearly $200,000, its cultural valuation just shot through the roof. Today, experts estimate its value is hovering around $520,000. Talk about a glow-up. And we definitely have to talk about the $1 million emerald cabochon choker. This piece features smooth, domed cabochon emeralds set in vintage Art Deco diamonds. Now here's the fun part. It was originally a 1981 Saudi wedding gift meant to be worn as a brooch on a lapel. But Diana, she didn't wear it like that at all. She boldly wrapped it right around her neck as a choker band. This single decision says absolutely everything about her approach to jewelry. She treated it as a flexible, fashion-forward accessory, not a rigid royal rulebook. Which brings us to our third section, the diplomatic gifts or geopolitical statements in stone. This is where we start to see international history and massive geopolitical statements of power rendered quite literally in precious stone. $15 million. Take a second to let that number sink in. This is the valuation of the undisputed crown jewel of Diana's collection, the Saudi Sapphire Suite. And this brilliantly illustrates the intersection of unbelievable material wealth and historical weight. On one side, you have unmatched material value, a necklace, earrings, bracelet, ring, and a watch, all set with the most prized, deep, velvety blue Burmese sapphires in the entire world. But on the other side, you've got its historical value. This was a monumental 1981 diplomatic wedding gift from King Fahd of Saudi Arabia. This wasn't just a polite congratulations, it was a massive geopolitical statement reflecting the serious, weighty relationship between Saudi Arabia and the British Crown, and Diana wore it at major 1980 state occasions. And other gifts push those boundaries of diplomacy even further. Take the Oman Diamond Suite, a $1.5 million gift from Sultan Qaboos that introduced these thoroughly modern, clean lines with a very striking cultural crescent motif. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia also engineered a $3 million 11-strand pearl choker. This thing was made with roughly 900 perfectly matched pearls held by ruby and diamond spacers. It literally reads as opulent armor when wrapped tightly around the neck. And culminating in 1986, we have the Swan Lake Suite. This was another Saudi diamond ensemble debuted by Diana at Covent Garden. With estimates reaching up to $12 million, it represents a staggering concentration of precious stones, forming a singular, absolutely unforgettable ensemble. Next up, Section 4, Historic Royal Heirlooms. Stones passed through generations. Here is where we trace the deep, deep history of antique artifacts that actually passed through the hands of multiple queens before ever reaching Diana. Let's see how this builds across a whole century with the $1.1 million Queen Mary's Lover's Knot tiara. Back in 1914, Garrett crafted its extraordinary 19 diamond arches and hanging pearl drops specifically for Queen Mary. Then, in 1953, it passed to Queen Elizabeth II. Fast forward to the 1980s, and it was loaned to Diana, who put it into heavy, heavy rotation. And since 2015, it's been worn by Catherine, Princess of Wales. That is literally 4 generations of royal women, all connected by one incredible piece of craftsmanship. And then, oh man, there is the Delhi Durbar Emerald Choker. This is an artifact of British imperial power valued at nearly $20 million. The emeralds themselves date all the way back to the 1911 coronation of King George V as Emperor of India. Fast forward to 1981, and Queen Elizabeth loans it to Diana. Now here's where it gets fun. At a gala in Melbourne in 1985, Diana tried to slide it over her head, and it literally got stuck right above her nose. Instead of panicking, she made a split-second decision to just keep it right on her forehead for the entire evening. By doing that, she accidentally created one of the most iconic, unforgettable fashion statements in royal history. So, that brings us to the crucial point in Section 5, the ultimate statements. Weaponizing jewels for personal independence. As we move into the 1990s, bold jewelry became a tool for personal independence. A really perfect example of this would be her $2 million diamond and South Sea pearl earrings. These were large, confident, unmistakably expensive pieces that perfectly reflected a much bolder personal era for her. Or consider the $1 million Asprey aquamarine ring. Clean, modern, featuring a huge emerald cut stone. This was not a royal gift. It was not a loan. After her divorce was finalized in 1996, Diana commissioned this deliberately modern piece, paid for it herself, and wore it entirely on her own terms. It reflected exactly where she was at that moment in time, completely independent and making her own choices. But the ultimate statement leads us to this truly unprecedented number: over $100 million. That is the almost immeasurable cultural valuation of a huge sapphire brooch, originally given to her by the Queen Mother, that Diana boldly converted into a choker. The story of this choker culminates on June 29, 1994. That evening, Prince Charles publicly admitted to adultery in a televised interview. Well, that very same night, Diana stepped out at the Serpentine Gallery, wearing a short, off-the-shoulder black Christina Stambolian dress anchored boldly by that exact sapphire choker. The world immediately dubbed it the revenge dress. The photographs ran on the front page of practically every newspaper on Earth the next morning. The absolute cultural mic drop of the dress, the timing, and that sapphire choker completely overshadowed the televised admission, defining Diana's power on her own terms permanently. Which leaves us with a final, lingering question. When does a piece of jewelry stop being an accessory and start becoming history? As we've seen throughout this explainer, the true value of these 15 incredible pieces doesn't just lie in the carats or the clarity of the stones. It lies in their provenance, their diplomatic weight, and sometimes their pure defiance. History is what truly makes them priceless. If you enjoyed unpacking these stories with us, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss our next historical deep dive. Thanks so much for watching, and keep exploring.